G'day listeners, welcome to Barkarati, the sailing podcast. My name's Jordan Spencer. It's that time of the week where I get to hang out with some really cool sailors, but of course I have to share the mic with, well, it's still just my one idiot mate, so let's bring him in.
He had a voice that could make a wolverine purr.
Mr. Nick Bice.
Well, we said it last week, we'll have to say it again. You're just going to have to change the intro.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we're not going to see him.
People are writing
he's gone.
in.
We've lost him. We've lost BP.
Well, people are writing in. They're genuinely concerned. So he keeps telling us he's ready to go, but we'll see.
You've been laid up for the week. I've been peppered with messages and ideas and Slack bloody notifications. You've obviously been at home doing nothing.
Oh, it's been tough, actually. I had knee surgery, for those who didn't know.
So you had an arthroscopy to get?
Yeah, and I was really good last week. I thought, this is easy. And then about the day later, it's swollen. It's just getting bigger and bigger and harder, and my leg's getting more and more painful. And then
basically it kind of puts your head size into perspective if you compare it to your leg.
Basically, I felt like, and I couldn't move, mate. There was 2 days I just couldn't move, and I was in a bad way. And I did have some ideas, though. Like in that time, I came up with a bunch of ideas. But yeah, not happy. And of course, my beautiful wife.
Your wife looked after you at all?
No, she went to New Zealand. She took off. My beautiful wife.
How about some eggs? Shit, that's me.
She's not strong on the empathy gene, and her passions of these days are photography and surfing, and I couldn't help with either of those. So she went to New Zealand. She left a bowl of water and a bowl of biscuits out and just left me in the middle of the floor. I've come good today though. Like I'm starting to feel better, but she's a unique individual. There's a reason why we haven't had kids, Bice, because
I think you've explained this one.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's but it did create a few good ideas, and it's been tough actually. I'll be honest. I thought it'd be pretty cruisy, but I've had a bad run. I thought it.
Well, and just for the listener, the reason for no kids is not anything medically.
No.
It's basically she would have left you and the kid with a bowl of water and a bowl of biscuits.
That's right, yeah. She's a beautiful human being, lovely, does amazing work, But,
mate, she doesn't listen, don't worry.
Yeah, I know.
Don't worry, you don't have to say
people get back. But if we had a kid, she would completely forget she had one. So, right, all right. That's enough about paying out of my wife. It's been the one thing we did do really well last week is we told everyone it's time to start thinking about the cup. And my God, how busy has the cup news got this week? It went from nothing to non-stop. We're on fire, mate. We led the charge.
Well, I doubt they wrote in the protocol they'll let the boat start sailing just when we release that episode, but it was a handy coincidence, I'd say.
Oh, no, it was planned, mate. Completely planned. Dear. Anyway, all right, well, we want to get our guests in because I'm really looking forward to this discussion because I've met this bloke a few times and he's always got a certain style about him which I quite admire. He is an Olympian. He's won a bronze medal in the fin class. He has been a US Sailor of the Year. He was in the American Magic America's Cup team, been pro sailor. And, of course, the most important one, just won the 505 World Champs. So welcome to the show, Caleb Paine. How are you, bud?
Sweet. Yeah, thank you. Really appreciate it.
Oh,
quite timely as well, Caleb. The listeners can't see it, but you look as though you've stepped straight off the set of the Netflix documentary with John Bertram and Dennis Conner sporting that fabulous moustache.
Hey, it worked at the Worlds, and clearly, watching the Netflix documentary, it worked for him as well. So like I said, just trying to draw on the power of the mustache, and we'll see where it takes me.
But I mean,
I love it.
We've had a theory on this show that that every US sailing team member would be required. It's like part of the uniform now to grow a moustache.
True, yeah. Because Mark had a pretty sweet mustache as well.
Yep.
Paul,
Yep.
Point. Yeah, true.
But the other bit is you need a tight perm as well.
I think my hair is a little too straight for that. I don't know. It's starting to thin at 30, so I might have a little struggle there, but we'll see what we can do.
Well, the other thing, I mean, like, because you're a California boy, you're a San Diego boy, so right down south of California there. And, you know, like I was paying out on you the whole time at the 5As, you know, because I kept saying, you know, you're like a 1970s model catalogue, catalogue model, you know, like you just keep rocking up in these cool outfits, which, you know, for me is complete respect, you know, that whole beach 70s moustache, the whole thing. It was just like, yeah, this guy just knows what he's about and he's super happy with it. And I loved it, you know, and
apart from Aussies, they would only know this one, but you'd be rolling up in a Holden Sandman panel van. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Surfboard hanging out the back.
Yeah. That's. But anyway, so you know, you've got a certain sense of style. We're trying to give the listeners a visual of you in case they don't know. They haven't met the great man, but you've had a pretty good sailing life, mate. How good are you?
Yeah, it's been sweet. You know, I'd say the majority of it is the community that basically got me to where I am, and obviously my parents were a huge aspect of that. And one of the most beneficial things my parents and the people around me have always kind of embraced is the reason you do it is because you have fun and you enjoy it. And as soon as that stops being the case, you shouldn't do it anymore. You know, and if you're a naturally competitive person, you're going to take it as far as you possibly can. And fortunately, I've had a support group and people around me that were able to facilitate that and push me forward. So, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, so was it your idea to start sailing?
No, I mean, my dad got me into it when I was really young. And then, yeah, I was sailing at 5 or 6 at Mission Bay Yacht Club, just here in San Diego. And just kind of naturally wanted to get better and better at it and was competitive and kept going and going. And the first international, like overseas event I ever sailed was when I was 19, actually, was the Finn Gold Cup in Denmark. And actually have kind of a funny story about that, but yeah.
Well,
leave us hanging.
We are all about funny stories.
Right.
So, but maybe before we get to the funny story though, what's the process? You grow up in Mission Bay. Do you? Yeah,
was
you
a
sailing
Sabo,
in what type of boats?
He started in a Sabo.
A Sabot, yeah. The Sabot's the old school, you know, kind of Southern California boat. There is some pushback, and the Opties are trying to come in, but you know the Sabot, for as flawed as it is, I think genuinely makes pretty decent sailors. You know, if it's a really hard boat to sail, you know, and the control line's always coming back to a thwart, so you can adjust them all the time. You know, it gets, I think, sailors at a very young age adjusting sail controls and manipulating the boat in a way that I think the Opti, frankly, can't really do. You know, so yeah, it's got a lot of history to it.
Is it got a little like a clog as an insignia?
It does. Yeah. Actually, here we go. So they have this one event every year. It has a little dust on it, but it's called a Dutch shoe, and it's from San Diego Yacht Club all the way down to Coronado Yacht Club, and I can't remember how many miles it is, but it's one of those races they do every year, and there's like over 300 boats or something like that. But yeah, that's basically what the emblem looks like.
Mate, so you live in California, you know, the sort of surfy beach bum capital of the US. I live, well, except for Hawaii, I suppose, but live on the Sunshine Coast. I live in Queensland. Mate, Sabos are huge here. They were the kids' boat.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's
nice.
Here we go. Bicey's switched off. Here we go.
He's like, just blazing.
Couple too many bongs getting smoked down around those places, I reckon. Coming up with those things.
It's true, especially with the lee board. You're like, what are you guys thinking over there? But supposedly the original design was made, I think, kind of like the Opti, but out of 2 pieces of plywood. You could basically assemble the whole boat out of that. So
yeah.
So the lee board was actually so people could tow the boats to Catalina, and they didn't have to worry about the trunk filling the whole boat with water. So you could tow it, not worry about it filling with water with the lee board.
Okay, well, that's slightly different to ours. Ours has got a centerboard, but it's the same logo and everything. So there you go. So you went through that whole process, but you know, the family get you into sailing. It's either that or go down to Tijuana for the weekend every weekend, sort of thing, where you are. So it's probably a smart move. Not that Bicey or I've ever done anything like that.
No. So, Sabo, how long are you in the Sabo for?
I was pretty big as a young kid. So I pretty much swapped out by the time I was 10. I sailed radials for like 6 months and I was straight into the full rig after that. So yeah, I think I was like 5'10" by the time I was 10 years old or something.
Wow.
So yeah, the best I ever did was last in Gold Fleet at the Nationals. So
Wow.
I was like, okay, time to move. Yeah.
Tap it out.
Taking out the side, the whole thing. Yeah, it wasn't the fastest look.
Given you were quite a big fella then, were there other sports opportunities throughout school and college?
Yeah, I played a little basketball and I did some track and field. I ran the 400, and then I'm turns out horrible at ball sports. So it's just one of those things that's like written off the menu. You can ask any of my friends if I've ever thrown a football to them. It's a rough. I can throw it far. I can throw a spiral, but will it get to you? That's a totally different question. So, yeah. But yeah. So no, it tried some things here and there, but sailing is the one that stuck.
Yeah, I love it. And like when you were growing up, I suppose, no, that's not going to, the kids in California are all over it. So like, what about surfing? You'd be surfing and snowboarding and all that sort of crap as well, wouldn't you?
Yeah, believe it or not, actually, when I was a kid, my dad's he was a middle school teacher, and the first job he got was up in Wrightwood, which is like a 2-hour drive from here, kind of in the low Sierras. And I grew up skiing as a kid until I was in fourth grade. So I spent most of my time up in the mountains skiing and all that, and a bit of surfing, not as much. Most of the time, if I was down in the water, I'd be in a sailboat. But yeah, tons of skiing and whatnot. Yeah, it's one of the coolest things of California is in the wintertime. You could surf that morning, drive 2 hours, and you're skiing that night. So it's
sure,
one of the cool things that California has.
Yeah, that is cool. That is very cool.
So based on being 5'10" at 10 years old, what was it? Sabo, laser radial for 6 months, laser full rig for about a year, straight into the fin. Fin when you're 11.
I basically sailed the full rig till I was 19, and then someone introduced me to the fin, and then I, kind of took it from there. But,
yeah, right. So, how big were you when you started in the fin? What size were you then?
I was like probably close to what I am now, 6'3", 210, 215, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Normal size.
So that would be like 98 kilos. Yeah. So
yeah. Average size human being.
Yeah. Exactly. An adult male.
Yeah, an adult male, a properly formed male.
Yeah, exactly.
When did you think, I want to do this seriously though? Was it in the lasers, or what was it when you started going, this is something I really want to do?
Yeah, it's kind of, it's funny. I kind of remember the moment specifically, and actually JJ Fetter and Mark Reynolds both came to Mission Bay Yacht Club when we were all in the junior program, and they came with their medals, and I think I was 8 or 9 at the time. And for some reason, something just stuck with me. And it was the fact that, hey, these people are from the same area I'm from. They sailed these same boats. We grew up in the same place. And I don't think you can underestimate the value on how impressionable a kid can be at that age, And funny enough, another girl, Brianna Provancha, who I grew up sailing with, went to the games in 2016. We were actually in the same Learn to Sail class, and we were both there on that day. And went and walked at the Rio Games together. Wow. And I remember that moment so clearly, being like, wow, this is something I have to go do. And until I've done that, I never would have felt fulfilled in this passion or dream that I've had. So yeah, that was pretty much the moment where I was like, shit, I got to go and do it.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
That's it.
Which then now takes me back though. Yeah. Your first trip overseas. We don't want to forget this funny story.
Yeah. So I was obviously a bigger guy. Couldn't sail the laser radial or the full rig just because I just physically couldn't have gotten down to the weight. And this guy Scott Mason let me sail his fin at Newport Beach one day, and I was like, sweet, I could do this, and got in contact with Zach Rayleigh, and he's like, yeah, feel free, come on over. And it was right after I graduated high school. I think I literally went right after that. And the first event I did was Kiel, and did pretty well. Like, all the Europeans are there. I think I was top 20, like my first international big fin event. I was like, all right. Sweet.
What year is this, mate?
This was 2009. Yeah, the year I graduated. So yeah, 2009.
Okay. So Zach Rayleigh had just won the silver at 2008 Olympics.
Yeah. So he was just coming off like his peak, the guy and all that.
Yep.
So
Just coming off his peak.
Yeah.
Good.
There you go. Maybe I shouldn't have said it like that.
He was pushed a little bit towards dropping off the top.
Now with history, we can say such things. But so who knows? Maybe he'll have pull the blind around when a laser, gold or something. But no, so basically go over and start sailing the Kiel, and then did pretty well there. And then the next one was the Worlds in Copenhagen. And first race goes off. I'm like, everyone's got a little nerves. Over 100 boats there. The Finn fleet's like huge in the Gold Cup, and I'm sailing up the beat. I tack out right, get super light, get a big righty, round the top mark in first. I'm like looking under the boom, and I'm like, God, these guys suck. I'm winning a gold medal this Olympics. Like, all you guys, nothing, right? Turn to go downwind. There goes 6 boats.
Yeah.
Go back upwind. There goes another 10. By I think at the end of the regatta, I ended up finishing, I think it was 40s or 50s or something like that. And it was just a very humbling, like, okay, like got a bit to learn kind of thing, going from at the top of the mountain to like, all right, well, I guess that didn't work out the way I would have thought, but then there the journey began.
Yeah. Well, that's the joy of sailing, isn't it? Because you can't hide anything in sailing. Like, it's that search for perfection, and maybe those guys did suck, but you sucked more, and you,
that's true.
And you just had to. That's when you go, righto, I've got to start doing the work, and that's where it comes. That's sailing. I love it. Yeah. But, you're in Denmark, you're sailing fins, you're hanging around with a bunch of normal-sized blokes. It's a good time.
Yeah. No, it's, and I'm sure being around the sailing community and especially the Olympic thing, and the fin class is like that. I believe the Star Fleet was probably a lot like this as well. But the camaraderie, you travel the world, you see cool things, you sail cool boats. At the end of the day, even your shittest day, still pretty freaking good. It's like, could be a lot worse. Obviously we all want to do better, and sometimes there's a lot on the line, but that was one of the things that got me through the most stressful periods, was just putting it in perspective and realizing that, at the end of the day, my parents love me. I had a good time. I've learned a lot. I have a lot of good friends, and, yeah.
So post bouncing out of the blocks when you'd won a gold medal already, and then by the time you finished 40 or 50, was that also a tipping point that, like, actually to win in these boats, now I get it? Or
for sure, I think it set into stone the journey I would have to be on to still achieve the goal that I had set out for myself, as a young kid. So yes, in a way, I totally think you're right. It was kind of like, whoa, okay, this isn't going to be a cakewalk. It's going to be a long, laborious, slow step of progress and goals, checking off or whatever else. And so in a way,
it is a bit of, it's almost a comparison. You'd almost put the laser in the same on the same journey. It's a long, arduous task to get to where you want to be, and then you get all these young whippersnappers just come flipping around in a skiff, in a moth, all those sort of thing, just going from heroes to zeros. But the hard work, I mean, we're not saying that sailing skiffs or moths is not hard work, but just seems that it's that extra mile in these boats where you just physically just on the edge.
I think one of the interesting things that, from the foiling to the, obviously, been around the foiling world and the displacement world, it's like the hot ticket thing right now, right? Everyone's like, oh, foiling, this kid can foil, but in reality, you take any really good sailor, you give them enough time, to be frank, not even that much time, they're going to be able to get the boat foiling around and flying. And now you have someone with years and years and years of experience with clearly just like the finesse and the feel for what it's like to get a boat to move through the water. But then you have the technical aspect, the sail shapes, the fundamentals are the same. A sail is a sail, if it's some little things change here and there, but to be frank, like one of the things I learned from the America's Cup stuff is the only position, or even with like the Sail GP stuff, the only position that's different on these boats is the flight controller. Everything else is identical.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
There's only one position that is kind of specialized and works with the other two people. But at the end of the day, like, you get a really good flight controller, you still need a good skipper and, some good sail trimmers. The rest will take care of itself.
Bunch of grinders.
Yeah. So it's easy to like, oh, it's flying, it's complicated and wild. And yes, some aspects of it definitely can be. And the engineering is really fascinating at, the fine level, like talking about foil design and sail shapes and all that. But still, the things that were true then are still true now. And I think it's easy for people to lose track of that. And I think some teams in the past have lost track of that as well.
Interesting. All right. Well, so let's just take a little sidestep then, because a lot of teams in the past would try and grab fin sailors, right? Fin sailors were very, very popular for teams. They wanted to grab, before it all became foiling, fin sailors were the go-to class in many ways. Tell us about the fin, because we've lost it now. It's out of the Olympics. So what's sailing a fin like?
Yeah, it's there's a love-hate relationship, and I guarantee you everybody that sailed the fin, from one aspect, they're like, wow, it was awesome, but at the same time, they're like, dude, that boat sucks, because I think it has a really good blend of being able to just put the main up, pop the rudder in, and go sailing, yet at the same time, to get, that 0.01% of a knot, you have to fundamentally understand the package. You can change the mast bend characteristics, the, sail shape, the material, the panel layout, the construction of the boat itself. There's still lots of stuff in low-hanging fruit that, or technical aspects of the game, kind of like the 5.0, that you can improve, your package. But at the end of the day, you could have the best package out there with the best sail shape and everything else. But if you don't hike your ass off and you're not physically fit enough to pump the boat downwind, efficiently and effectively, you're just not going to be there. So I think when it comes to the Olympic motto, it lives up the best, and one of the funny things that I kind of found when I was at the games is, you walk into the games and you have all these different athletes and all that, you look at some of the sailors and they're like, what the hell is this guy here for? It's like, this is like a dude. Like, you just like walk in from the Best Buy, But you see a bunch of fin sailors, they're like, oh, what sport are you in? You're like, you could be a weightlifter, you could be track and field or whatever else, right? Like,
you come the shot putters.
So anyway, no, it's it just complements, I think, both aspects of the Olympic aspect of sailing. Like, you could say the laser, super technique driven. Obviously, the tactics have to be phenomenal. Your starting has to be amazing, but you got a freaking round mast and a pretty mediocre sail, and the whole package there is super one design, and a open but fairly strict one design, I think, is a really, really good kind of boat, because you can still, I mean, you look at the range of weights that we had in the fin as well, and how competitive people were in that range. It's pretty impressive, and you just can't do that in boats like the 49er or the laser. It's like, you have to weigh this amount. If you're above that or below that, you're kind of screwed,
That rumor has it a gold medal was won or lost based on how many bananas a laser sailor ate in one day.
Exactly. So it's exactly right. It's which has its place as well. I think that there's value to, being able to get yourself to that weight or physiology. Clearly impressive. But as the whole Olympic package, I think the fin did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I'm a mad supporter of the damn thing. So, and one of the things that we are really worried about is that what we call normal-sized human beings have been excluded from sailing in the Olympics now. There's no pathway at all for any normal-sized human being anymore. So, that seems to cry all the.
Apparently, it's driven by all the sailing teams, because they're
Food budget.
their budgets, food budgets. They had to scale them back a little.
Yeah, well,
I will say there was like one time I was training with the Canadian guys. They were the group I spent most of my time with, and we went to Costco and we walked out with like a literal pallet of food. I think we consumed it within like 4 or 5 days. You know, it's like 5 massive dudes living in a house. It was crazy the amount of food we consumed.
So one of my concerns is because the World Sailing and the International Olympic Committee are trying to get equality in sailing, so they want to get 50-50, same number of males and females competing. And I think by taking the fin out, what they've done is they've reduced the desire for women to go to the Olympics because there's no decent-sized human beings there anymore for them, you know.
You might be onto something. There you go.
It's a good take. It's a good take. Geez, you have been thinking this week, Jordan.
Yeah.
So when you go and present that to World Sailing, I'll be the fly on the wall.
Exactly.
How it goes over, and let me know.
Yeah,
Trust me, mate.
I've brought some specimens along with me.
Yeah, exactly. Just line them up. There you go.
They listen. Don't you worry. They listen a lot.
You here for a keynote, Jordan? No, but I've brought some normal-sized human beings with me.
Yeah. Huh? More appetizing? Self-responsible? Come on.
Yeah. You don't see on Tinder. You never see on Tinder. The women saying, "I'm looking for a short, little, slightly angry bloke."
Men under 5'6". Yeah, please apply. Yeah.
You just never see it, right?
Jesus.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get to the important bit. You know, you that man Zach Riley was. You were training partners for a while. I think he went in 2012. You were training to go 2012, and then you took the spot in 2016. And Zach was the last guy for the US to get a medal in 2008, and you were the next medal. So that last race was pretty special, I suspect, at the Olympics.
I don't know how much you know about the event, but it was pretty wild. So about 2 days before our last day before the medal race, there was actually a port starboard that was a huge deal. Basically, we were sailing on the ocean, Copacabana, huge. It was like 25 knot day, huge swell. It was epic. And then one of the worst things they ever did with the coverage, which I think they should do with every single displacement boat, is whenever it's epic and crazy out, they're the only boats that can go sailing. Yeah. And those are the times you need to film them, when you're having these huge waves and it's freaking blowing, 25 to 30, tops of the waves getting blown off. I mean, to be frank, I think it's kind of cooler looking than a board or, a kite flying around in flat water at speed. It's like, I mean, they're not capsizing or doing anything like that. Like, you see a boat go, it can totally change the entire race. Someone's, leading and then all of a sudden has a tip or whatever. So, anyway, we're sailing out there. There's a port starboard. Turns out I knew the guy was lying about the port starboard cross, but just due to the way that the rules of sailing are written, it was up to me to kind of prove that I was innocent, because he wouldn't have protested unless there was an infraction. So I get chucked. I go from having medal contention, because I got second in that race, to like out of the top 10, basically Olympics over at that stage. So I knew he was lying, but I go in to reopen the hearing. And fortunately that night, the broadcasters had found, like, it was so random that they had any video of that start, but there was a broadcaster from the IBC, International Broadcasting Service, that had video of the start and me clearly crossing, right? So everyone else is on their rest day. I'm back at the boat park trying to reopen the hearing, but of course that has to happen after all the other sailors come in from their events, so I'm there until 6 o'clock, get the hearing reopened, but they can't resolve it because the other party's not there, because it's a reserve day. So now I have to sail the whole next day, not knowing if I'm basically going to get reinstated for this race that'll totally change my Olympic events. So I sail this day, no idea. It was a mediocre day. It was a really, one of the hardest courses was the Niederoy course, which is kind of right by, just below the airport, or I think it was east of the airport or west. I can't remember from the time, but that come back in. The other guy didn't show up to the protest. And basically I was reinstated as second, which get me 1 point and I was like, I can't remember what it was. It was like 6 or 7 points behind the guy who was in third, who was the guy who lied about the cross. So I literally had to beat the guy that ended up putting me through all this BS to then go off and win a medal, and almost got the second if the Slovenian guy got last in the race, but he's a great sailor, Vasily, so hats off to him. But no, it was a pretty dramatic thing, and obviously won the medal race by quite a bit. And
one angry mate. Hey?
I was over on the right side, and that righty came in. So I'm not a religious man, but hey,
Hey,
if it works, it works. So,
just looking up into the mountain there, and there he was, had his arms out.
Yeah. I was like, okay, come on. If you're going to come through, now's the time.
I love it, mate.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, cool.
So how intense did the pre-Olympics go with all the training and with Zach? And
far harder than the Olympic Games, to be honest, which sounds crazy with all that. But so I basically, Zach did the 2012 games. My goal, and kind of to go back what you were saying earlier, with my thought of how I was going to get to winning a medal, realizing the hill I had to climb is I knew I wasn't going to go to the 2012 games. My goal was always to go to 2016. And yeah, Zach basically came back a year and a half before the 2016 Olympics and started training with his kind of old training group. So that was Jonas Christensen, Chris Cook. I don't know if he was sailing then, but some of the other guys that he kind of grew up with. And then I was off, doing my thing. And the first Worlds he actually sailed was down in New Zealand in 2015. So the pressure was mounting and mounting and mounting, and the Olympic trials came down to the last race, 9:00 in the morning in Barcelona. And there was a protest that happened before. Pretty interesting how the whole thing shook out. I ended up winning that protest, but due to the infraction, I actually wanted to have a Rule 2 violation, meaning that he would get a DNE. The jury chucked him, but didn't give him a DNE. So basically we're like, you were wrong, but it was weird. So I ended up having to count my drop. I went from leading by 10 points to being behind by 10 points. And I had to put 10 points between Zach and I in a 1 hour race at 9:30 in the morning in Barcelona. And that was my Olympics right there.
Wow.
I became an Olympian or not in 6 years of training. And it's funny because
hang on,
a lot of people are like, oh, well, it still would have been worth it if you hadn't gone and all that. And it's like, okay, yes. But at the same time, the fact of the matter is everyone's going to look at you like a charity case, or, someone who didn't make it, and no one likes to mention that or say that, but it's true. It's
Jordan gets that all the time.
But so basically Zach came after me. He's a really aggressive sailor. And this is where holding your cards close to your chest, but knowing your competition really well plays into your hands. So yeah, I was prepared, like down low in the box. We started doing the circles. I knew that he wanted to go left. So I was slowly drifting right before the pre-start and like hit up, do a bunch of pack of boats close enough to the start time that he couldn't come back to me. And he hit it left. I rounded the top mark in second, and he rounded in like 64th or something like that. And, that was the craziest race of my life for sure.
Wow.
Like, the Olympics was cool, but that Olympic trial race, that was by far the craziest race of my life.
It's a good story, mate, but I'm calling bullshit because there's no way they're having a race at 10 in the morning in Barcelona. There'd be no one awake.
No one there. No start committee.
Well, we had to do it so early because the medal race was like after that, because I think, I can't remember what position we were. It didn't matter. It was like who beat who at that point in time.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, mate. It's awesome. Like, what comes across is a certain, like, what really clearly comes across with you is a certain level, is 100% honesty, like with yourself and with everyone, with everything. So well, I love that, we that's the thing we call for all the time. So I think Bice would be pretty ecstatic to hear that. And you also, you're really intense in your focus on what you want, and you go after it when you're out there sailing. So you'd be a pretty intense competitor.
Yeah, no, like my theory is if everyone signs on the dotted line, this is the terms of conditions that we've all agreed to, and if that's the case, I'm gonna rip your throat out as
There's
long as
one
we're
goal.
within those lines. Like that's just what it is. Like, sorry, like you know, and the honesty thing, I think it's extremely important, at least it has been for me, because and I think one of the things the Olympics kind of conditions you to is it eliminates all bullshit. Doesn't matter, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
and that's one of the things that I struggle in some other aspects of sailing is kind of the you
Politics.
know, the politics of it, because at the end of the day, it's like, are you fucking ready on the day? Did you train hard enough? You know, did you eat well enough? You know, if you did all those things and had a good training program going into it, and it's not like the Olympics doesn't give a shit. Just doesn't fucking give it. There's like, those are the 3 best and go on. That's it. Sorry. Like there's no participation award, you know? And I really value that, you know, and I think more teams would be better to kind of have that mentality or structure kind of built within them.
They should change the slogan for the Olympics. I don't know what it is now, but just have it. There's no participation award.
That would be good. That would be good.
Hey, where's your bronze medal now, Caleb?
So I actually live on a boat. So it's up in San Francisco, sitting on the boat. Yeah.
Okay, but, so just for the listeners before, when we were talking about the Sabo, just handy, you lean your hand up, you got the clog down, which had the bloody had the inscription on there that you'd won, but no bronze medal.
Believe it or not, believe it or not, this is my brother's actually. He was a much better Sabbath sailor than I was.
All right, sorry. Back to the bronze medal. You live on the boat.
Yeah, exactly.
There's so many more Olympic stuff things, but there's so much more you've done, and we really need to move on to it. But I do want to ask just a general question before we do that. It doesn't sound like anyone could get under your skin, like, you know, with a bit of a bit of psych on the beach or on the water. We're mad promoters of that, you know, psyching someone out.
Banter.
Has anyone?
Oh, I'm good at doing it to other people. I love
here we go.
So like one of the things I would do is like, you know, there's the guys who are the light air specialists and the kind of breeze specialists. And me, I was like, I don't give a shit. Like, what, bring it on. Like, and so if it's like a light air day, you know, you go to the big guys and be like, man, did you guys hear about the forecast? It's like so out there, you know, and you see them sweating, and then you're like round the top mark and you look, they're like at 40th, you're like, oh, and vice versa, you know. Man, I heard it's really windy out there. Man, I'm like 35. That's what I heard. It's crazy, you know. And the little guys like sweating, you know, like flipping on the way onto the race course. And you're like, oh yeah.
We may live in different nations, but went to the same school.
Yeah, it's always good. It's always good to
run. Love it.
Yeah. Right, subtle. I mean, this is as long as it's done with the right, you know, everyone understands. Yeah. It's good. Exactly. So, mad respect. Maybe you could set up that could be one of your income streams, setting up a bit of
banter lines,
banter lines and psychology stuff.
You could be a banter consultant or something.
Yeah. We'll introduce you.
Consultant.
Yeah. Hang on, writing this down.
We'll introduce you to Fritz. With one of the things that came from that, of course, is the role with American Magic, where you became one of the sailors in the 36 America's Cup. Yep. And obviously last week we had young Tyson Lamond on, who you'd know quite well. Tell us about the Cup experience for you. It was a unique one for American Magic.
Yeah, it was wild. So I kind of came into the team right as the whole team was moving down to Auckland. Obviously, it was the whole COVID thing and all that craziness. And I was originally one of the sailors and still was always one of the backup sailors, sailed on the boat a couple times, not a huge amount, but just due to my sailing background, I was asked to do all the recon because the team didn't have like a solid recon guy at the time.
Still in costume. You stay the big...
But
pretty much.
See, Bicey, you went to. I went to. The first thing I thought of was he's reconning all the bars along the waterfront there, mate.
Yeah, kind of. Well, it's the recon thing was actually kind of important because none of the boats were ever able to sail against each other, right?
Yeah,
so it'd be nearly impossible to try to compare and contrast like what the two boats were doing. So yeah, just based off my sailing background, they were like, hey, would you take this on? I was like, sure. So yeah, that's what I basically did. I was in a rib doing, 50 freaking knots, following these crazy boats around with a $15,000 camera and taking photos and trying to understand systems and basically kind of give the best information I could to our designers, and sailors to make our package the best we could to go off and compete at the Challengers Cup and then the America's Cup, hopefully. Yeah.
From a former guest, Joey Newton, was recon. He was playing the recon role. I think came and spied on you guys a bit, actually.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So maybe you should have just done a deal. Just handed over a few photos each.
Exactly. We needed a club. Yeah,
they flat out down here.
Former union, the recon union.
It's true too, because then you're not having to go full throttle on the rib. You can just find a nice little spot in Ragutoto, have a lunch. You
guys could all be sitting in it.
Oh, it's crazy out here, guys. It's true. In hindsight, that would have been the way to do it for sure.
I could see you and Joey.
Which essentially they're doing now, right?
Yeah. Well, now it's like all, I guess, I don't know how that works, but it's they have to report it in and send it all out. Interesting how honest like some people will be with that, but we'll see. Yeah.
Who'd have thought, eh? So one of the first things that I thought of is maybe the recon role was selected not necessarily on your sailing knowledge, but more on the ability less likely to get beaten up.
Maybe that's true. Honestly, that was one of the best parts about it was just getting under the skin because obviously like yourselves, the banter and all that. I would love. Oh man, it was nothing better than early in the morning. Someone thinks they're revealing something and no one's going to be around. And there was me with my camera ready to shoot all stuff. There was another one too. The Brits were revealing their boat too for the first time, and our bases were right next to each other. So we had the scissor lifts, like the scissor lifts, you go and work on the boat or whatever else. So I got in the scissor lift with the massive camera and just there's a photo of me somewhere, like totally extended on our base shooting into theirs, and they were like, "What the hell?" I was like, "Hey man, it's hilarious and it's kind of fun."
You're at eye level with someone in the sky tower. That's why you need the big camera to get.
Exactly. So no, it was cool. It was fun, but the technology of it was one of the cool things about it, because I am pretty fascinated with all that. For instance, I like work on all my own cars and I race them for fun on the side, and stuff like that. So the mechanical aspect and the equipment aspect, kind of the fin as well. Wow. This is just bigger and cooler and faster and more powerful, and that was what the AC thing was really sweet to be a part of.
That's pretty. I mean, that's a pretty cool thing. We've had a couple of guys who are into cars come on the show, but
a lot of crossovers between motorsport and
both technical sports. But to be into racing cars in America, that's quite a lot of bravery, because at least our cars can go around corners in the rest of the world.
Well, see,
in America, you got to put them on bikes.
So I have a German car, so it's all good.
Okay. Yeah, copy.
I thought you were going to say because we don't actually have health insurance and you guys do. So I'm like, that's actually more of a reason.
That's a good point. Yeah.
But yeah.
Where was it going? We're having too much fun. This is a disaster. We're having just too much fun. So are you in discussions now with any of the cup teams?
No. So basically, was asked. There were some talks with American Magic, but kind of went our separate ways. So no, not at the moment. And one of the things that I would love to do is to somehow have another team. I think in the US would be really sweet to have. Obviously, it's a very difficult thing to do, and you need someone with some financial resources to help make that happen. But my perspective is the more teams, the better. And it does nothing but lift the competition from both sides, and so who knows what brings in the future, but hopefully time will tell.
Well, the other guy that's probably potentially doing that's just funding a thing called SailGP at the moment. So,
True. Yeah. Well, there's America has a lot of billionaires.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah.
I think in San Francisco alone, there's like just the San Francisco zip code. It's like over 100 or something like that. So yeah, it's quite a bit of wealth in a very small area.
Wow. Where Bicey was born claims to be the spot in the world with the most millionaires per head. But, there's only one billionaire, I think, over there. So you've probably got that record in San Fran, the most billionaires per head, Crazy.
Just a crazy way to visualize a million relative to a billion. So if someone gave you $1 every second, you'd be a millionaire in 12 days.
Yeah.
If someone gave you $1 every second, it would take you 32 years to become a billionaire.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone that's willing to give me $1 every second, but I'm willing to be there for them.
Willing to accept it.
Yeah,
I think we're all here. We can split the dollar, and I think we'll still all be pretty stoked.
Okay. I'm down. We'll share. I'm into it. Well, I do have to. Obviously, I'm biased, and Bicey's probably going to get grumpy here, but let's talk about the 5-0 world.
Oh,
yeah. There you go. Yeah, absolutely.
How did that whole show come about?
Yeah, so Stu McNay and I knew each other from the Olympic sailing, and he retired and I retired from fin sailing, and we were kind of doing some pro sailing and stuff, and just we're missing that dinghy aspect of sailing, because I'm hand up, for me personally, dinghies are the best boats out there. They just are. They're awesome. I sailed with Mike Martin and Howie, just kind of some of the stuff in the Bay Area. And I said, Stu, I think this is something we would definitely, have a lot of fun with, and purely for fun. Let's go and do it. So we did our first event together in Clearwater. I think it was the pre-North Americans and then the North American event in Clearwater, Florida. And we won the pre-North Americans, and if it wasn't for the double drop, would have won the North Americans, but second at the North Americans to Mike and Adam. Our goal was always to go do the Worlds, and now we're sailing the 5-0. So yeah, we're actually going to do the PCCs next weekend in Santa Cruz. So yeah.
It was cool to have you guys come into the class, because you sort of, it was pretty impressive, because you're 100% consistent right across. But they're a hard boat to go fast in straight away. So you guys have done that. But the one thing about the Americans, and Bicey knows, I mentioned this nonstop, they share information. So it's you get up to speed in the States real quick.
Yeah. I think being at a small team like or even an organization like the US 505 fleet, or even within the boat, or some massive corporation or sailing team, everyone should have a voice, and just because no one's ever going to bat 1,000 right off the bat and have the great idea, but to get those ideas out there, communicated, discussed, they'll then evolve into something that's probably pretty special, and the more you limit yourself to, these kind of little enclaves, the worse off you are, and it shows in obviously the US 505 group. It showed in corporations like Lockheed Martin inventing the SR-71 Blackbird and crazy stuff like that. There's a common thread. Like there's just a common thread of everyone being on the same page and being able to discuss ideas is just better than 3 or 4 people
individuals
saying this is the way it's going to be, and tough shit.
I reckon the fact you've gone from fin to 505, but the fact that 5.0s weren't in the Olympics has created that culture. So if the 5.0s were an Olympic boat, that culture may have been taken away a little bit.
I totally agree. And I think one of the things that it takes a really great leader to do is, when resources are scarce, to still embrace that mentality of sharing and openness and communication, right? Because the lack of resources, what gets everyone to close off and say, oh no, like I'm keeping mine over
Not
here.
In my area, yeah.
And be it money, be it, influence, be it, results, whatever it may be, those people will close off, right? And that's where it takes someone who's, kind of extraordinary to say, hey, there's going to be money there. We're all going to share. We all have a common goal. And guess what? If we win, everything gets better, you know?
Mm.
So getting everyone to be kind of on the same page is a revolutionary thing. I mean, not revolutionary, but it's a game-changing thing, you know? And it's so simple, yet it's so hard to manifest and incorporate into a program.
Mate, I'm sitting here listening to this thinking this is your corporate public speaking audition tape going on. But then I started thinking about the Americans, what we hear about the US states at the moment. Perhaps you should run for bloody politician. They might do a good job.
I like sailing a lot more.
There's a limit to how many boxes of files you can keep on the boat.
Exactly. Well, and the nice thing about a boat is at the end of the day, if shit hits the fan, you can just disappear. I'm out.
No.
Oh, hang on, the FBI coming. Okay, autopilot on, off she goes.
The other thing that's nice about a boat, in all honesty, and you know, I thought about when you started talking about the 5.0, we started talking about the 5.0s, that all the nice thoughts came back, but it happens across nearly all the classes, is that it's just, you go out and you do this thing intensely, and in most instances, in most classes, you come back and people do share information and people are really helpful to get you up to speed. But, you know, you just have such a good time, you know, like you get to go around the world. Like I was thinking in Ireland, how much fun was Ireland, you know, like in such cool
it's
people.
A country that I hadn't really been to either. And it was amazing. It's gorgeous, cool, nicest people. It's fantastic. Yeah.
It's just so good, you know, even though there was no wind. But everyone was so good. You haven't seen people. I hadn't seen a few people for about 10 years. And, you know, it was just straight back into it. Everyone taking the piss out of Jordan again. So it was, you know, everything was normal. So.
Well, when something simple, it's easy to do, right? So,
Totally.
So did you enjoy sailing that boat, the 5.0?
I really do. The 5.0s, and the cool thing too is, you know, obviously coming from skippering, but then, you know, the crewing aspect, it's awesome to learn a different discipline and kind of have a better understanding and appreciation for that. You know, and the physicality of it's fun, and you know, the way that Stu and I would do tactics is I would do it upwind and he would do it downwind, you know, and the discussion there and the dynamic and knowing, you know, for instance, like one of the things that happened was when we got the 7th in that race, which kind of led us, if we hadn't have followed up with the, you know, the results we got afterwards, left us a little vulnerable, you know, because the points were actually pretty close then, you know, and me, from my experience, and I kind of enjoy, for some reason, stress and pressure seem to bring out the best in me, you know, and looking at Stu, and I think he gets a little nervous, and being able to, you know, lend that hand and going over to him and be like, hey man, being that calm, you know, person, being like, we got this, don't worry about it, here we fucking go, you know, and then making it happen. So yeah, no, it's cool to be a part of the team and contribute in a different manner that I'm used to. Yeah,
I can see that in your relationship, having Stu on the show, and he's sitting there with the one Jordan Spencer, a little bit nervous. You could see his Guinness was shaking a little bit during the broadcast.
Yeah,
Carly, we've just come here and owned it. I think we found our third host.
Oh, it's like it, for instance, the thing that you look at in a situation like that is, no one's perfect in all areas, right? We all have areas we can improve.
Hold on.
Okay, well, except for you, of course.
There's one exception to the rule. Yeah.
But no, I look at that as something awesome. Like, okay, sweet. Stu is an assassin when it comes to his ability to feel a boat and how to set it up. Like, it's incredible. Like, we'll be sailing along in the 5.0 and he's like, we'll go jib lead up just a hair, do one crack here. And then I just look over my shoulder and I'm like, okay, higher, faster, we're freaking gone, you know? From that aspect, he, honestly, of all the people I've ever sailed with, he's the best in the world.
Sure.
But, you know, for me and my kind of, maybe it's a California thing, or the fact that I've had such a wild, crazy, stressful kind of Olympic campaigning thing, I'm just relaxed around it, you know? And
can't get rattled.
Yeah. So it's like, from that, I can help him. And from this, like, I'm learning from Stu every time I go sailing with him. And that's one of the things I love more than anything is, you know, every time we go on the water, I'm like, okay, so what do you feel? Okay, I got it. Like, you know, and kind of understanding how he looks at a boat and then trying to incorporate some of that into my sailing has been great.
Yeah, it's good fun. That's what again, talking about sailing in general, because you never, everything's different. Every boat's different. When I try and explain sailing to people, when we teach people sailing, you say, okay, it might be 5 knots, and you say, you've got to do this, this, and this. And then the next day they turn up, it's 20 knots, and you say, oh, don't do that, because everything changes in our sport. The boats are different, but also when the wind changes, the way we set it, because we're chasing balance all the time. But that's because of that, because you're always learning. It keeps it interesting the whole time. That's my theory.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Any superstitions, mate? You talk a good game, so I just wonder if there's a weakness there. Is any superstitions like wearing 1970s shorts or?
No.
No?
Yeah, zero superstitions. No.
Mm.
Yeah, it's nothing I can think of.
A good place to start some banter, though.
Mm.
You guys have
sure.
your banana this morning? Oh, yeah.
Yes.
It's going to be coming in from the southwest. Woo!
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, true. It's definitely a good thing to pick at.
I love it.
Have you got any superstitions, Jordan?
No, not at all. Not
Red
at all.
undies?
No.
Red hair? Oh, yeah, we got that one. Yeah.
No. I do sort of once the first gun goes, or my mentality, I have a little switch that I switch on, but always got to be a lot of relaxed, happy, But the psychology and the intensity of sailing, you gotta keep that out, is what I reckon. And so you work a process, but then when you got to know when to switch that intensity on. But depending on what sort of boat you're on, of course. If you're on a keel boat with 10 other guys, you've got to tone it down a bit. That took me a long time to learn.
I feel like a superstition's a weakness, and that's why I try to make sure that no one can get rattle me or mess with me anyway. So I try to eliminate anything that could potentially be, an outlier that someone could use against me. So that's my theory on it.
Yeah. But. Interesting, mate. I do want to check, just as an outsider, you went up against the English or the British Finn team, right? Which was, your whole area, everyone was almost racing for second for a long time.
For sure. They clearly had an amazing squad and an amazing program, for sure. Yeah.
What do you
reckon?
Now
they're all sailing together on America's Cup boat. So.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
What do you reckon their secret was? Do you got any ideas?
Well, so coming from the U.S., I can just say, from the U.S. and then spectating, looking at them, there's no doubt the British sailing team had more money than everybody else,
no doubt.
And I mean, here's an example. So Giles, for instance, he would get 40,000 pounds just in salary, right? Just here you go for being a good sailor. There's 40,000 pounds. All of the equipment was taken care of, travel, coach, and then all that was also managed as well, and given to them through the British sailing team. My first trip to Europe, I slept in the back of a little tiny Fiat Fiorino. It's like this tiny little shitter. Have you ever seen them?
Legs hanging out each front window.
If you ever been to Europe, they're the ones that are delivering baguettes around. That was the thing that I freaking slept in.
Just one step up from the Piaggio uppy.
100%. So I was I was sleeping on people's floors, sleeping in that thing. The first boat, I actually never personally bought my own fin because I couldn't afford it. It was purely donors that, my parents, my mom's she was an ICU nurse. My dad was a middle school teacher. I didn't come from a lot of money like a lot of sailors do in the US. So everything that I ever had was through donation and through the community that I've been involved with. And that amount of resources, and then you give that to multiple people, the level's just going to get better and better and better, and then they have someone to document that information and, catalog it through generations. So they have all the bend characteristics of every single sailor over, 4 quads. Clearly that's going to be data that you could then go and use to make a better product in the end, and the problem in the US is literally every single person pretty much restarts the same process every time to go to Olympic campaign. I mean, that's a very difficult thing to come from, right? Instead of here's our book or the Holy Grail, go look through it. You
There
need
it
this,
is.
this. You're going to be pretty competitive from the get-go instead of like, yeah, I don't, I don't know, so,
Yep.
it's, and not to be mean to US Sailing, and I now coach the young laser guys, the ODP guys. I mean, I didn't have a full-time coach till 7 months before the Olympic Games in 2016.
Mm. Yep.
I was literally, my training partners were the Canadian guys. That's why I love them more to death. And I go to Toronto just to visit them and party with them, because some of my best friends, and that was the reason I was able to do what I did, was because they lent a lending hand to me in a time of need. So yeah,
I think you've nailed it 100%, mate. 100%. That the money's one, but not losing that knowledge, that's the critical thing.
Yeah, I mean, because think about it, in the US, when someone is done, they're just like, sell everything. Now I'm going to go, sell aluminum siding, whatever the hell, like, whatever. Like, I'm going to go sell insurance. You're like, okay, like, you're going to have the next gen. Nope, well, whatever. They're on their own, and it's sad, but you can understand if there isn't a financial, system to kind of capture and then pass that on. Yeah, I mean, you can't ask the sailors to do it either. I mean, their job is to go off and sail. It's not to be record keepers to give to the next generation, right? It's an institutional problem, I would say. But yeah,
I was going to say, Bud, my first trip to Europe, I remember distinctly with my good buddy Sandy Higgins. We're in this little Renault thing, and he took the front seat, laid that right back, and was nice and relaxed. So I couldn't get the back seat because he was across it. So I lay.
Jordan took the roof rack.
I lay in the boot, and I went to sleep in the boot. But it was so small, my feet were on the ground in the car, like they're actually touching the ground out the back. Like it was just the worst night. Yeah. Anyway, that's just. But we've all done it. Otherwise, how do you become such humble, nice human beings?
Oh, you got good stories,
That's it.
You always look back on it in a good way. Yeah, exactly.
Hey, mate, we're done. We've sort of chewed up a lot of time, but I think both Bitesy and I are enjoying this a bit too much. So you want to stay on for the rest of our banter that we've got coming up?
Sure, yeah.
Any questions before we roll into that, Bice?
No, let's roll and just see where this ends up. Who knows?
I would like to quickly just say something if I can.
Of course, my friend.
Yeah. So I just want to say, like, for the US audience specifically, one of the things that I think is an issue is I'm really passionate about junior sailing. My dad runs the Treasure Island Sailing Center in San Francisco, which brings intercity kids and gets them, out in boats and kind of getting appreciation for the water and the sport we all love. And I want all the yacht clubs and yacht club members out there. Maybe the kids might be annoying. Maybe they might frustrate you a little bit. Maybe they leave their clothes out where they shouldn't, or a boat, or something else there. But if we want this sport to continue on in the US, please try the best you can do to facilitate getting these juniors out, getting them sailing, getting them out on the water, and expressing that thing that we all love, and there were adults that helped me out, and this guy, Doug Hart, and Scott Finkboner, who's down here in San Diego, that were huge to kind of opening my eyes to sailing and the competitive aspect of sailing, and don't underestimate the value that lending a helping hand to someone who's trying to get into this sport at a young age, the value of that could change their life and continue, the clubs that we all love and the sailing we all love and the sport we all love, so be it racing, be it cruising, whatever it may be, just try to do your best to look out for those and help out when you can. So yeah, it's just something that it stuck in my craw a little bit. There's friction that I think a lot of these young kids get. And try to put yourself in their shoes and remember when you were a kid and embrace that instead of, meet it with hostility or frustration. So yeah, anyway. Sorry about that. Just wanted to.
That is good, because there's two key terms that come out of that, right? And that's grassroots and volunteerism. Yeah. And there's a lot of people that spend a lot of time doing that. But to actually open those doors to those young kids to expose them to something that literally they thought they can't even touch is extremely important.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Love it.
Sounds great. More people should do it. Yeah.
That's it.
That's my philosophy. Yeah, exactly.
Everybody should sail. It's a good thing. And I mean, Bice is one of those guys. He gives all his time. He gives a lot of time. That's why they call him the Bice Commodore. All right. We're going to move on to a bit of other news and, our traditional stuff here that we talk about. Our club events, boys. I want to ask a question. When I say a diamond, do you guys remember what the diamond looks like? The yacht, the diamond. It's a pommy design. They're in Australia. I don't know if they're in the States, Caleb, but
I think I've seen them now.
Okay, if you visualise a lightweight Sharpie and an Etchel crashing into each other, and the boat that emerges from it is what you. Bice is looking it up, and the minute he sees
looking it up frantically,
I can see him looking it up. The minute he sees it, he'll get it. It's basically if you crashed a lightweight Sharpie into a diamond, into an Etchel, you've got a diamond, right? The reason I bring that up though, Bice is just going is because there'll be a bunch of them. There's a bunch of them sail down in Victoria, and they'll be part of the Geelong Festival of Sails, which will be happening 26 to 29 January. I just wanted to pull that up. And I just thought I'd give the diamond a plug because I kind of like them. They're a bit of a retro, old, cool thing that I dig.
Something that kind of fits our vibe is that retro cool thing. So,
yeah,
I like it.
Yeah, there you go.
Got 2 trapeze, yeah?
It can do, yeah. It's crazy, isn't it? Like a keel boat.
Yeah, look at that thing. That thing's pretty wild. Yeah.
Reminds me a bit of the Shields up in Newport.
Yeah.
Right on.
Shields, yeah. Yep. Yep.
Anyway, but it was just a roundabout way to get to talking about and telling everyone that Festival of Sails is coming up 26 to 29 January. We'll do a bit more on that before that, just to get people fired up. Part of the sailing scene, thousands of boats. I think they're like to the 179th edition of that event, Festival of Sails.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, which is insane because Australia's only had
not even that old.
Only had white people in it for a certain amount of time. Anyway, the other one during the week was the announcement of the Route de Rhum, the race to Guadeloupe.
Do you have any desire to go offshore, Caleb?
Yeah, absolutely. No, actually, secretly, one of my great passions would be to have a U.S. Jules Verne attempt. I think would be freaking awesome.
Yeah,
it is like
not so secret now, my friend.
There you go. But,
any of those billionaires in San Fran listening in,
hit me up.
Just give us $1 per second for the next.
Yes. Well, it's one of those things where it is the ultimate sailing. It's why sailing was created. Crossing oceans, it's the coolest. So. Yeah, that'd be an awesome thing to do at some point in time.
Cool.
So Route to Run though, we've got 50 plus, I think, 50 plus class 40s.
Damn.
Insane. 36 IMOCAs. And plenty of falls might be washing up on beaches somewhere.
8 old teams, mate.
And 8 old teams, yeah.
So look, it's coming up, so it's one of the big ones for the year. All the Frenchies go on their annual holiday across to Guadeloupe, or biannual holiday. Just wanted to bring that up as an event, just remind people that's coming up. So they're talking about it. Interesting times, definitely one we follow with great interest because there's always, at the finish, of course, there's a few islands to hit. It's a big course, depending on what sort of boat you're on. They run different laps and different course. So, yeah, that's all. Just wanted to mention it.
Nah, good one. And keeping in mind, the Route de Rhum was the reason the start of the Volvo got delayed.
Yes, it was.
Based on the original delays, Volvo, the ocean race rather.
Yeah.
The delays that were caused via COVID. And it was delayed 1 year, which would have clashed. And of course, there's several ocean race teams doing the Route to Rhum. So from that point of view, it'd be good to watch as well.
Yeah,
cool.
Absolutely.
Jack Lloyd, listener of the week. Jack Lloyd, of course, one of our great mates who passed, unfortunately, legend of the sport. Listener of the week, I'm going for Ross Vickers because our listeners, Bicey, you've destroyed our listener base, mate, because all those names that have been coming in for the the AM40, the American Magic version of the 40, America's Cup 40. We don't have to have really. I can't put any of the swear words to air, right? I just can't do it, right? And
so, just to bring Caleb into the convo here. So last year we're talking about the America's Cup 40 footer, and they didn't have a name for it at American Magic yet. So we kind of canvassed the listener to ask to send some names in.
Yeah, what kind of names did you come up with?
Well, we pretty much can't tell you about any of them.
Well, we've put an E on this one anyway, so on this episode.
But we did get one from Ross Vickers, which I actually really liked, okay? And the rest of you, pick up your level of behaviour. He suggested, because each team's getting two, he suggested American Magic, he suggested calling him the boats Penn and Teller.
That's pretty good.
I like that. I like that a lot. Because I like that sort of, there's a common
straight out of Vegas.
Yeah. But, the magic combination, the whole thing, I like that a lot. So I just wanted to mention that. You other blokes.
And then sorry, go on.
You other blokes that sent all those other suggestions in, think I can read that on air? Like, Mark Disney, you're an idiot. How am I supposed to read that? Anyway. Then,
of course, we can't go past Dom Kime, who sent in his sent a note in basically saying BP's moved on. He doesn't want to be part of the show anymore.
Yeah, he has.
so maybe that'll get BP into gear.
Well, no, I'll tell you what will get BP into gear. Caleb's been on fire, mate.
Well, BP should feel threatened, is what I say.
All right. Okay, well, I'm voting for Ross.
Yeah, Ross. We'll go Ross. Ross, there may or may not be a merchandise pack on its way, my friend. If
he wins the name, we've guaranteed a hat. We've guaranteed a hat from American Magic. So we'll keep sending the names in. We'll keep it open until we've got enough, randomly enough, and we'll just stop. Okay, so, yeah. Ole, 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 ole.
Feeling hot, hot, hot. It's hot time with Bice. Feeling hot, hot, hot.
Don't know if you've come across this episode before, Carla, but just a good way to create a bit of bet. Normally, if we're just without the guest on, I'm in a pair of tracksuit pants with the buttons down the side, rip them off.
Oh, hey, don't
do a bit of a dance around town.
By all means, do your thing.
You can just see the look on your face, mate. Like he's going,
what the fuck's going on here?
Have you got anything, boss?
Yeah, no, the biggest one is actually the AC40.
Yep.
That's come out this week.
Yep.
Every media outlet's given their little bit of banter on it, so to speak. But the best one I saw was first day sailing, fully foiling, tacking, jibing, with some novices on board. Those novices being like Ray Davies, Nathan Outteridge,
Sam Meach.
yeah, hang on.
That's pretty funny,
mate. Have you seen the AC40 or?
I haven't yet. No, actually, I'll run a quick Google here and take a look. I knew they were coming out, but
I love it. I absolutely love it. I reckon it is the coolest looking little thing. And did you see what happened though, day two?
I didn't see day two, but day one was post towing it with the hydrogen foiling chase boat.
Yeah, and perfect foiling jibe, foiling tack, first time, every time, no problems. Day two, nosedived it, let go.
They're cool little boats.
Yeah,
I remember. Yeah, seeing it here. Yeah, they're definitely. There's something special for sure.
Yep. So I had a capsized day two, just letting go off the towboat. because of course, you know, half your riding moment comes from having speed over those foils. So the minute if you let it go too slow, you've got no riding moment from the foil, so it fell over. But then it hit 40 something knots as well that day. So, but
yeah,
how cool are they? I like the look of them, you know. Like, I don't know if you guys, but I reckon, like with that towboat, the hydrogen-powered towboat's got the same look. Like, they've really gone for a certain. It's sort of like
look and feel, just to buy the public over to say we're taking our cup and going to Europe. Farewell.
It'd be kind of sweet to have emerging teams just be able to buy the 40s and maybe be a part of the next program without having to commit to a 75.
Yeah.
Big gear,
yeah,
absolutely.
It would be good, actually, just to get there. I think they're probably quite keen to do something like that, having read the protocol. But I mean, I think it's a great idea. Obviously, foiling is becoming more and more prominent. But
So, couple of things that came from it is one, those plans we looked at all those years ago out of the office from Guillaume Verdier.
Yep.
Is literally what we're seeing now, which is bloody cool.
Yep.
The second one is, are these going to have their own circuit as such? Like Sail GP, we're in the catamarans. Everything's kind of contained within the two hulls. Imagine 6 or 7 of these going hard out at each other when you've got your wing sticking out of the water. Oh,
I will say the F50s are cool, but the monohulls are pretty sweet. And fortunately, I've spent a lot of time around the 75s, and it is an amazing machine. Like it's so impressive when you see this thing like ripping across the bay at 45, 50 knots. It's just like, holy shit. Like, it looks like a spaceship. You know, even when the thing gets up on a tow, you know, both the foils are down and the whole thing. It's pretty cool.
It's very cool.
Was that the first time you foiled? Did you just fall over, or you're like, oh, Jesus?
No, first time was on a moth, but no, the weirdest thing is you get up on the big boat and all of a sudden it's like totally quiet, but just pure freaking wind noise. You're just like, Well, and then everything else is quiet. And you're looking around, and the G forces in the turns. That's probably the wildest thing too.
Yeah.
Like in the taxi vibes, the G's are pretty impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. It's super cool. That being said, without stepping on your thunder there, I know you're in charge of this episode, but of course we go into Sail GP. Like, as this is published, Sail GP will be on its last day in Cadiz in Spain. Because I think that's this weekend. We're actually recording on Friday at the moment, so it's definitely happening. I know, because both Caleb and I we've hung out at Sail GP. But the other thing, Caleb, I just want to bring in here, boss, is there's some good footage on YouTube of you sailing off Cadiz. You want to give us a conditions forecast?
Hey, I had a mustache then as well, actually.
Oh, is that right? Well, we only could see your ass in the photos, but
I mean, it can get freaking windy there. I think it did last time the Sail GP was there, right? It was a pretty breezy day, one of the days.
Can't remember.
But no, you get a pretty big fetch. You can get some really big breeze when it comes out of, I don't know, whatever the sea breeze direction is. But yeah, it can get pretty spicy pretty quickly.
Yeah, are you a fan of Sail GP?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think any sailing that gets, kind of the public, open to what we're doing, I think is phenomenal. What you guys do and it's just showing that anything in sailing is great. Honestly, that's how I feel. So,
Hey, would you say your non-sailing mates, would they go out of their way to kind of watch a bit of Sail GP now because it's on, or
I don't know,
there's still that line to cross?
I think it's still right now, sailing is more one of those, like, you can show them a clip of it and like, wow, that's crazy, those boats are doing that. But I think interest kind of ends there.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a good question on how to kind of market that. It's
reckon we should do an experiment.
Yeah.
We invite a bunch of non-sailing mates down to the local yacht club.
Right. It's a great way of doing
with
it.
the sail GP on, see how long they last before we start talking about something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure. No, it'd be an interesting polling exercise to do. Yeah, for sure.
Might do a global polling exercise.
Yeah. There you go. Well, you just see how long it takes them to yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, have you seen the latest Land Rover?
Well, I had an idea. Speaking of kit diz, right? It does, in all honesty, looking at the weather models, it looks like it could be big rigs. So not much wind. But I had a brainwave when I looked at the weather models. Could you not? We know if you go through the Straits of Gibraltar, you know it's always going to be windy there, right? Could we not just stick it right there in the middle there? Wouldn't that be a good...
There in the Straits, you reckon?
In the Straits. How good would that be?
Incoming container ship.
Mm.
Yeah, good.
I reckon that could be a good one.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, no, you're definitely not onto anything there.
Okay.
Your weekend of thinking of ideas.
I still have another one.
But speaking of ideas,
Yes.
And going back to the AC40, this has obviously been dreamt an idea and 1,000 engineers and designers and people design came up with that particular boat. But you had a particularly good idea this week, Jordan, on the couch. Paralympic sailing. Given that you couldn't walk, I'm guessing you had visions that you'll never walk again, and this is how I'm going to win.
I thought I had blood poisoning because I couldn't move for 2 days. I thought, oh shit, they're going to cut my leg off. How am I? I'm going to have to take up parasailing. I better make sure the boats are cool. So I was thinking, what boat would you sail, right? Like I was putting my head into the space. If I was going to be doing the Paralympics, which hopefully are coming back in, we're trying. What boat would you do? And I was thinking of the little 2.4s, and I thought, I don't want to sit in the bottom of a keelboat thingy, pretend keelboaty thing. The
Scud. The
Scud is, it's a good boat, actually. It's a really good boat. But I was just thinking I'd like to do it single-handed. So then I thought, well, there's nothing, but why can't we, with the way the falls work, particularly an Amoca setup, right, where the falls are out permanently and you can just lean into them, couldn't we make a falling para boat that doesn't tip over? Like, so you could have a little keel on it, but it still pops up like an Amoca, and actually just have a little falling boat for the parasailers. Can you imagine the parasailers just screaming around?
Sounds pretty cheap to me.
I was like, you can engineer anything.
Yeah.
With enough money and brain power. Yeah, you can definitely do it.
I thought you were almost going to lead into there that you were going to convert a VX1 into, by the way, if anyone wants to buy one, nickbice@me.com. Give me a call.
A VX1 would be a good experimental, like when they're super cheap. It would be good fun to build a set of falls and just punch through it and actually do a sports boat out of a VX1. So put a little tray on, make it 20 foot or whatever you need to be, and then that'd be a perfect boat, I reckon. That would be a really good boat. It could work. Do you sail a VX1 at all, Carla?
I have a couple times, here in Long Beach.
Yeah.
Do you just what would be your go-to boat just to jump in on a Wednesday night beer can race or something?
So there's a bunch of boats where I live, and I'll just buy friends or whatever else, anything from an Express 37 to Moore 24, you name it.
The Moors,
yeah. The Moors are pretty cool boats, I will say. Those are pretty sweet. So yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. So it sounds like my parasailing idea needs more work, but for the parasailers who are out there listening, just send me some notes so I can keep pushing.
Dream big is what we're saying.
So what I did, boys, was I got an A4 piece of paper, and then I got a couple of pop sticks and stuck them in the side, and that's as far as I got.
So if we go something a little like that,
yeah.
Stick some falls out of
That's
here.
it. Now you do it.
Oh, it's such a good medium for a podcast, that particular gag.
Yeah, the visual stuff. Yeah. Anything else, mate?
I know. The only other thing on my list was the Hobie Worlds.
Oh, I just good friends Susie and Cam just won the Masters World. So the Hobie, which is the lead up. So congrats to Cam Owen and Susie Gent, who are very close friends. Just won the Masters, so very happy for them. We have talked about them coming on the show. They've got the Open Worlds sort of going on now, but just wanted to congratulate them. One of your pets, though, the Golden Globes, mate. I've got a theory about the Golden Globes. What's it called? The Golden
Globe race.
Golden Globe race. Here's my theory, right? Now we're more sustainable and environmentally aware. All those shitters that lie on moorings have to be disposed of, and you've got to pay quite a bit of money to get rid of them. My theory is that this whole event is just an elaborate scheme for dumping boats in the middle of the ocean, and then and it's been proved already, because I think one of the American sailors has already put one up on the rocks. Are you guys across that? Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw he put it up on Ventura, something like that.
Yeah.
They went up.
You've been following it?
So
I haven't, no, but that sounds like some American entrepreneurism that, that's like really shining through there.
Yeah.
Well, it's sailing like it's 1968. Basically, that's where your boat needs to be.
Yeah.
And it was Guy de Boer put his boat up on the rocks.
That's right.
Los Palmos.
So that's my theory. It's just the whole event is an elaborate way of just disposing of old crappy boats. That's what I reckon it is.
How dare you? How dare you? These are people's pride and joy, and they're literally sailing like it's 1968 with no modern electronics on board. You could say that may have put someone on the rocks.
There's a reason we have some of this modern stuff. I do think, look.
No, but
I
was following it during the week, and they had what they called had a bit of a flyby down the Canaries there, and everyone kind of came through looking, just as though they've been doing a bit of trade wind sailing, just enjoying life.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Cool. Anything else, my friend?
No, that's it from me. Pretty much.
You sent me a video.
Yes.
The video from the Round Britain race.
Yes. So my mistake. Didn't check my notes properly. We mentioned it last week. We've got a lot of viewing to do that we can comment on. And during the week also, I watched the Round Britain race with Dee and Shirley, Dee Kafari, Shirley Robson together. And basically, it's a very well put together documentary. Well, it's 15 minutes worth. And to see the different emotions gone through, not to mention at the start of the race, everyone's looking, all the hair's nice back and everyone's looking great. By the end of the race, I hate to say it, ladies, but it aged you a little. And that's not meant to be taken in any sort of other manner than it was a long race. But of course, they tidied up nicely. Well, nice warm shower, and by the time they finished, 14 days, I think it was.
Yeah. I guess, Caleb, I know you know Dee. I assume you know Shirley, or did you not overlap?
I know Shirley a little bit, yeah, definitely met a couple times, yeah.
Yeah, so interesting combination. Any views on it? It's a really nice video. I watched it too. Bicey sent it through, and I really enjoyed watching it. It's a two-parter, but yeah.
I honestly haven't seen it. I'd love to watch it. And yeah.
I spend a lot of time with Dee. Obviously you and I travelled the world with Dee a bit with the ocean race, but with the Sail GP, Dee and I thrust together non-stop all the time. And,
Oh, Caleb, do either of us care to comment on that?
Yeah, apologies, Dee.
Thrust together. Right.
No, well, it's an interesting dynamic, and she is a great human being. It's just so much fun to hang with her, despite the fact I feel like I'm the naughty child all the time when she's telling me off. But I just love hanging with Dee. She's a good human being, and it was good to, knowing someone so well, just see that one of the things about the videos, Shirley keeps talking about how strong Dee gets. The worse the conditions are, she just gets happier.
Definitely, that comes over.
And that's
imagine I was with you guys. I'd be like the naughty nephew that both of you would kick my ass.
I'm going to say, Bice, if the three of us were on a boat, there'd be no one would know who's in. We're all the naughty one.
Good boys.
So what's next for you, bud? Just to sign off, Caleb. What's your next thing? It's the 5As next weekend.
Yeah, 5Os next weekend. I'm coaching the young ODP guys at the ILCA 7 Euros. Still weird not saying laser.
Oh, yeah, that's what you're talking about.
I actually might be coaching the kiteboarding worlds in Cagliari in Sardinia. So,
cool.
yeah, just some stuff like that. Doing some Etchel sailing in Miami, and yeah, nothing too crazy.
Thinking about pulling the fin out for because I think the next Gold Cup's in the US.
It is, yeah. And actually, unfortunately, I've sold all my stuff. But if there's a fin laying around, who knows? I might jump into it. We'll see.
Yeah, Fin Gold Cup.
I need to start hitting the gym a little bit, though, if that was the case.
Right. Right. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right, mate. Well, it's been an absolute ton of fun hanging out with you, as it always is. Can't wait to see you again. At least I'll see you in San Fran. It's my next guess is the next time I'll see you. But, well, even if you're not... I'll just come and knock on your boat, mate.
There you go. Sounds good.
But I hope you've enjoyed it, mate. It's been great fun hanging out.
Bloody
I have, yeah.
Awesome.
Appreciate the interview. Thanks so much, guys. Yeah.
Our pleasure.
Cheers, mate.
Bye.
All right, Bicey, you're good?
Yeah, yep, I'm good.
All right, sign out. All right, listeners, thanks for listening in. It's so much fun doing this for you guys. So thanks for listening. What's BP up to?
Playing the guitar.
Doing it his
That's
way.
all we get him for now.
Well, if he doesn't come back, he might take this song off us.